Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about the concerning and rather extreme pattern that we'll be setting up across the United States. And a bit flashback to 2 videos ago, I made a video, right? It got a lot of views, which I thank you guys so much for watching that. Generally good feedback. But there were quite a few people that are saying, you know, this is alarmist, this is something that is usual and normal. And I understand where you're coming from, folks that said that, because there's a lot of stuff in the news nowadays where people are alarming, saying stuff that really often is not grounded in any sort of truth or is a hyperbole of what the actual statement is or the truth. But in this case, this truly is a actual it's an anomaly, and I'm not saying, you know, this is the end of the world, this is the end of the United States as we know it, end of agriculture. No. Has this happened before? Yes. Has it happened often? Absolutely not, which is why, again, it's rather it's an anomaly, and this is something just to inform you about. I'm not trying to create panic or anxiety for anyone. You know, we've gotten through much worse as a country and as the world, and this is by far nothing that is doomsday-like, right? It's just something that honestly, for me, it's more of an interesting thing, because it's just interesting to see how these high temperatures form. And you know, obviously for many others, it's unfortunately not interesting, and it's an actual reality of the extreme temperatures, and it's not fun. So, yeah, not trying to be alarmist, just trying to keep you guys informed, doing my best here. With that being said, I know already 2 minutes into the video almost. If you guys would like to support this channel, if you like what I'm doing, consider subscribing. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. If you want to like the video, that helps out a ton. And if you have any comment, good or bad, just leave it down below. I will try answering most of them. I pretty much read all and answer 95%. Okay, let's get into this. So first off, let's take a look at the GFS. Sorry about that. I do want to say that we, in terms of that storm system that I was talking about yesterday, we're still looking at that. And notice, right, today across Illinois, Wisconsin, a bit of showers, and look what happens across the upper plains. Definitely quite a bit of activity into, look at that, Sunday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. So there will be some rain, but unfortunately where the heat is the best, look at Manitoba, Saskatchewan, North Dakota, South Dakota, it won't be enough, really, to kind of ward off the impacts of that heat wave. But definitely not an all-out dry pattern, and again, a rather impressive low pressure. Look at that thing. If I were to expand this into the North American view, you would see that this is a really potent storm with many waves, and yes, it's rather well organized, lots of rain associated with it, and its cold front is really, really long. But in the meantime, and especially around this, around the time this storm system passes by, there's going to be a dry slot, a dry period, and that's where the heat could start developing. And notice a lot of precip kind of avoids that area because, well, it's getting redirected from that heat dome. So let's switch regions, go back to the continental United States and southern Canada, and take a look at these temperature anomalies. So this is basically showing us how the temperatures will deviate from average. So if you have a average of, say, 75 across North Dakota and South Dakota, let's say 80, it's probably a bit warmer than that, 80, and you have 10 degrees above average, well, you're seeing 90s, and yes, that's an anomaly. And some of these anomalies, which I'll show you, are going to be ranging almost into the 30s, 30 Fahrenheit, about, I don't know, 20 Celsius. So a extreme anomaly, you know, if you're seeing 80, that's not bad, but if you have 30 degrees on top of that, that's 110, which pretty much anywhere will be hot, even if you're usually a cool place. And if you're a hot place, forget about it, you could be seeing 130, 140 then. Fortunately, no 130s in this case, but definitely triple digits. Okay, notice, right now, generally comfortable and cool across the eastern and northern United States. Today was one of the warmer days, actually, here in Chicago, but notice that there is quite a bit of blue area definitely around, so not an all-out horrible pattern. But look at the Northwest. Unfortunately, unless there's cloud cover or storms, it's very warm, and it's above average. And as we push this forward, notice that this is August 6th, so let me just run through this. This is Friday, here's our time frame, and notice above across the Northeast, warm across the upper plains, and southern Canada. And notice that as we push this forward, we see these blobs of blue, and they're really, it kind of knacks at me. I don't really like looking at a map that's like this because it's hard to predict where these will go, because these are mainly driven not by upper level patterns or by huge low pressures, but by just a little bit of cloud cover, some thunderstorm, rain, cool air. So they're rather random, but yeah, look at that right there. You could tell they're explosive cold air from those thunderstorms. And the reason why they get so cold is those thunderstorms grow really high up, right? Their clouds reach many thousand feet up, and then in the downdraft, they blow that wind out. So, but yes, of course, they're not blowing 30-degree temperatures out, but compared to hundreds, they are blowing By the time it kind of slides down that thunderstorm column, the temperatures warm up by a good 30 40 degrees, so it's 70 and 80s instead of hundreds, so that's why that's indicated by that anomaly right there. Notice though, we do see that very strong heat wave occurring further across the Midwest. That's the first area of concern, but that's not the worst of the pattern. I'll show you when it gets really bad. There definitely will be some heat. Notice Nebraska, Kansas, and as I mentioned, the first part of the heat wave will be into this week and early next week, and that will be across more of the central plains. Notice there is a bit of a cool air pattern right there, but as we push this forward, this is where it really where stuff really hits the fan, if you will. Notice there will be many locations across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast that are warm. Thankfully, the Upper Plains not that bad yet. Look at southeastern Canada, another very warm day across Wednesday, Thursday. So this is already a pretty unpleasant pattern, and definitely not favorable as there's drought. But it's not concerning or extreme. I'll tell you once it gets very bad. Look at that. We have that large storm system, if you remember, right? Look at that cool air behind it. Folks may be wondering, oh, where is that extreme pattern? Unfortunately, look at towards the west, Washington, Oregon. It's coming right at you. And look, as we push it forward, look how hot that gets. Look at those anomalies. I'll show you the temperatures. Look at that. That is extreme. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, extreme. British Columbia. I mean, those are rather impressive anomalies. And this by itself isn't unheard of. Almost every year there is some sort of part of the country in the U.S. or southern Canada that sees these anomalies. Last year was a bit further towards the north. The thing that makes this more extreme is not necessarily this almost topping off the scales, but the fact that it's been occurring across similar locations. We've had at least 2 or 3 of these events this year so far across the west and the northern plains. Also, the winter was very, very dry for these many areas, and they have been left in a drought since spring, and it's getting worse. That's why it's just, it's kind of the compilation of these events that are all relatively bad on top of each other that equal out to this concerning pattern. And again, nothing doomsday like. It definitely might feel like it when you're in 115 degrees, but it is something that it should be warranted about, and that's why I'm making this video. Look at these anomalies. They stay strong. Minnesota, Wisconsin, they eventually push further into the east. Look at this. During the overnight especially, much warmer temperatures in the overnight hours compared to average and during the day, and that's mainly to do with cloud cover during the day, protecting it from the sun reaching the surface. But look at that, the upper plains just baking. Even the Northeast gets in on that, and look at that right there in Minnesota. That is topping off the charts. Each day, by the way, this switches around. Some models show this heat dome a bit further towards the west on some days, towards the east. So exactly where this sets up is still uncertain. But if you are watching this video and you are wondering where this will, whether or not this will affect me, I'll go region by region right now. So first off, the Northeast. You will be definitely seeing heat and definitely above average. There will be a few periods of cooler temperatures, but once this, I would say August 12th comes, you could start getting in on some pretty bad heat. Definitely not extreme, nothing unheard of, but unpleasant. Southeast, probably the one area of the United States that's going to remain unscathed, and really the heat that does occur there is going to be short and actually below average, more likely. Southwest, maybe a bit of relief from the monsoons, but generally getting a pretty good shot of heat out of that. The Great Lakes, really not too bad, but as you go quickly towards the north and west, I mean, you can see Minnesota just dealing with extreme anomalies into the southern Canada area. Very, very, very hot temperatures. Not good news, and this could definitely still switch. So if you live across the northern plains into southern Canada, the northwest, kind of, hopefully you could see that red circle. It's probably should have chosen a better color, but anywhere in that area, you're most likely going to be dealing with rather extreme temperatures. Again, it's a pretty large area because this will be constant and fluid, but if I were to minimize it, where I think it will be the worst of the worst, probably somewhere in here. And again, that does include a large area, but that will be and this is, of course, with that second wave. As I mentioned, there will be the first wave across this weekend, further into Nebraska and Kansas. And again, that's going to be kind of the first wave. I'll show you the 2-meter temperature shaded, which is actual readings, in just a second. But yeah, some of these anomalies are truly stunning. And look, this is as far as the forecast goes, and the heat is just relentless. I will show you other models as well, but I do want to show you now the GFS, and it's 2-meter temperature shaded. It's reading, notice, during the night, not bad temperatures, but during the days, it's already in some areas getting pretty darn hot. Again, they have been seeing a relatively hot summer across the Dakotas this year, and it's just gonna get much worse, which is why this pattern is so bad. Look at that. As I mentioned, the first part of this is the weekend. Look at that. Kansas, Nebraska, definitely seeing the brunt of the hundreds. They don't have a drought yet. They are abnormally dry, so I think that will worsen as not a lot of precipitation is coming towards their way in that in the Nebraska area. Look at that, 112, 113 possible across Lincoln into Omaha, maybe, especially Omaha. That's not a record, I don't think, at least, but definitely a record maybe for the year, probably the warmest. I don't think they've seen triple digits this year yet. Yeah, notice that. Then there are a few days, Tuesday, Wednesday, where it's relatively chill out for the country, especially the northern plains, kind of the calm before the storm, and then still very, very hot towards the south. But the thing is, they're usually, they're used to seeing such temperatures. It's not as of an anomaly as seeing hundreds across the Dakotas, which you will see in just a second. Notice, look at that, the Northwest, Seattle, right there at 99 degrees potentially, not good. Eastern Washington, 197. Look at that, 90s, almost 100 right there across widespread Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. This is our 200. As we push this forward, look at that, 105, 108. Widespread triple digits all across the plains, Minnesota, Minneapolis, the East Coast, the Southeast, not seeing the brunt of it yet. The Southwest also pretty darn hot. As he pushes forward, look, the overnight hours in the 80s. That is not good news. Look at those temperatures. I mean, they're brutal. They're excruciating. 108, 107, 105, all the way into Canada, well into Canada, where polar bears live. It could be in the 80s, which may seem chilly or warm. Sorry, or not as warm, but that's still an anomaly. 90s all the way into southern or central Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. That's definitely hot. Maybe not as bad as 108 in the Dakotas, as they have been dealing with horrible drought. But same story with Canada. They have been dealing with very, very dry weather. And look at that. I mean, it's very, very long lasting. And yeah, this could be going on for many, many days. Earlier it was thought just for 3 days, these extreme temperatures. Now it could be more like a week, and look what happens right there. I mean, that's just incredible. 110 at Minneapolis, 110 potentially right there. I don't really know what city, Fargo, Grand Forks area. That is very, very hot. Again, this is still far out, so this isn't imminent. Hopefully this model is wrong to a degree. It's definitely not wrong overall, because there are many models agreeing with it, and this pattern has been consistent, and this isn't as jumpy as, say, a storm is, a single storm system. Such temperature anomalies are usually definitely way less changeable, so it's a concern once they start showing them. I mean, look, it's almost like a flash of white going on right there. That's how hot it is. It's, maybe not topping the charts, but it's getting there. It's 100, almost 15 across many of these locations. That is excruciating, and hopefully, by the time this ends, we do start seeing that cool air push through. But I mean, not good news, right? Not good news. I just want to show you the severity of this, right? The rest of the U.S., yes, definitely warm across the southeast, the east. Notice 90s, 80s, maybe some triple digits towards the south. Nothing unbearable, but right there, that's the dome of the insane heat. And again, that will be affecting portions of the Northwest. It may not look like if it is, because it's cooler temperatures, but again, it's all relative to average. They will be also stuck in those orange colors. Now, again, I do want to show you the total accumulated precip during this time period. Could be some rain, very, very little amounts of it. Unfortunately, where they need it the most, it will be dry. Not good news, folks. Wildfires, brush fires will be definitely on a rampage. Thankfully, a lot of these locations aren't wooded, but so I guess that means less material to burn. But yeah, fields of hay, fields of fields of hay, they even grew this year from this year. There could be some brush fires. That's the thing. And, the bigger problem is the west, the northwest, where the forests are, and, well, the heat is there as well. So, yeah, definitely probably a record fire season this year as we get into fall, as that's usually where it peaks. Now, let me show you the European precip outlook, right? So this only goes out to 240, not as long as a GFS. Notice it does show some rain, which is brilliant news. But again, it's just a little bit too little. Hopefully we do get some rain across Minneapolis, Iowa. Nonetheless, the impacts will be very bad if it gets to 110, or 100 plus for several days. But at least you might get some rain. So keep your fingers crossed for that. And notice that as we push into the temperature anomalies for the European model, it's really the same story. Notice, I want to show you there are a few blobs of cool air, but the warmth is definitely oppressive, and it starts getting worse and worse as we head further out. There's our storm system. Notice the European does bring that cool blast of air, what I coined the calm before the storm. And look, right here, afterwards, Look at that heat. I mean, that is oppressive. And the European, it only goes out to 240, so it's still not as bad as what the GFS starts showing in the long term, because it doesn't go out that far. But definitely the European degreeing with the GFS up until as far as it goes. So not good news. Hopefully this doesn't happen, but it's looking more and more likely. Notice, obviously, heat, nonetheless, even when it's not as warm, 90s, 100s. Again, the first part of this will kind of be the Nebraska, Kansas area, the southern central plains. That is hot, and with little precip, that will definitely cause some sort of issue. I wouldn't say that's anything historic, triple digits in Kansas, but, it's probably pretty much an annual thing. But again, it does get much worse, and if that happens across, central Canada. So yeah, that's quite a bit worse. And notice that it does start showing that heat right there. Look at that. Seattle, 83. Portland, 87. Widespread hundreds across eastern Washington. And look, right there, 102, 100 across much of Montana. If you live in Portland right now, in the comments, tell me, 102. That's not normal for you guys. Let the people know, because sometimes it's hard to imagine what is and what isn't normal. 102 in Montana. It may be normal if you've been looking at this year, because they've had so many triple digits. On a normal year, that's not that usual. Triple digits. Yes, it does get hot in Montana. It's not snowing all year, but triple digits are not good. I know from a fact in Chicago, triple digits have happened, but the last time we got it was in 2012, and they are not pleasant, and we are much further to the south than Montana. And that's always not the case that southern locations are cooler. The plains get warmed up really quickly because of how flat and lack of vegetation their land is. So usually it's that drier air, and it's also it heats up rather quicker. While here across the Great Lakes, there's often fronts from the lakes. It's often more of a dense air mass because of how much corn crops there are, so it's more humid. But still, without getting into much of the explanations, that's not good. The hundreds and the 90s here. And again, this is not the worst of it. If we were to show you the European further out, it would show such extremes as a GFS. And I know that for a reason, because there is a website that shows a European a bit further out, which I actually will show you for the sake of this video. Here's a Canadian, another model. Notice showing the hundreds. Definitely some hot temperatures, even for Kansas, that's pretty hot. And as he pushes forward, notice that the heat starts ranking up across, look at that, Alberta. I mean, 95 all the way up here. I don't really know that's almost northern Alberta. That's not good. And if I were to take a look at that anomaly, that could show us how above average that is compared to what it typically sees. Look at those yellow colors, 26 degrees above average. Again, look at that, some areas in the 30s. So again, if you're averaging 60, you're now seeing 90s. That's very, very, very warm. And yeah, even folks across the east, the southeastern Canada area, that is definitely quite a bit of heat as well. So yeah, not good news. Look at that right there, 35 degrees above average. That is just not good, folks. And likewise, from the other models, the Canadian does not show a lot of precipitation for the areas that need it the most. It does show quite a bit for Minnesota, which is good, as they could be getting in on the heat a bit later on. Not too much for Montana, North Dakota, or South Dakota. A bit. In some areas, it's nothing at all. And in a few areas, they may get lucky and pick up some rain. So that'll definitely be good. But you could see Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Southern Canada. Yeah, that's not good. That's not even enough for one day of 100-degree temperatures, let alone 240 hours. Okay, so if you remember earlier, I was saying that I have the European that goes out to 360 hours. Well, I was mistaken. I actually don't, but I do have the ensemble that goes out 360 hours out, and the European model is included in this, but I can't really separate it from the other 31 models, or might be even 51 models that participate in this average. So again, this is a bunch of models compiled on top of each other. And notice let me just quickly run through this. What do you notice? Look at the blue colors. They diminish. And look what we see. The heat, consistent, and it does actually intensify across some areas in the long range, which again, for so many models over such a large area of time, is very impressive. And yeah, notice that it becomes more of a widespread warm pattern, not as many little cool blips. Of course, that is to do with less accuracy. I don't think it will be predominantly this warm. I do think that there will be a few areas that are blue, mainly south, probably a few even getting in here, sneaking in within each storm system. But notice that for so many models, such agreement is profound. So the European model stopped at hour 240, right? And that's when that storm system is passing by, that big one with that large cold front, and that's when all heck breaks loose. Notice, look what happens right there. That's a very, very impressive anomaly of almost 7 degrees for 51 models to be showing at our 246. And notice that it continues, maybe not to that same extent, but they all favor such anomalies, and in some areas it does get up to that 65-degree range Celsius, which again, if some models aren't on board with that, but the biggest two, biggest three really, European, Canadian, and European or GFS, all agree on those extreme anomalies. And such a anomaly this far out, let me tell you, is definitely something to be concerned about, and that indicates heat across much of the northern plains. And look, even the Great Lakes aren't getting away with that. The Northeast, that is definitely warm, but obviously the warmest towards the Northwest, the upper plains, and into southern Canada. And yeah, at this point, this is very far out. You could see getting into August 20th, so it's not the best kind of idea to look at it this far out. But anything I would say before 300 is definitely plausible. And you're not really looking for individual storms or individual days, just more of like a trend. And obviously the trend we notice is cool towards the south, maybe portions of the Great Lakes and Northeast on some days, but the heat is gonna be painful. So yeah, again, nothing to be, I'm not trying to alarm here, cause a stir, right? I'm just trying to keep you guys informed, showing you what's ahead. Again, pretty ridiculous temperatures can be on their way. Wildfire season is going to be made definitely worse, and you know, that's, I guess, something we'll have to deal with. I will be also making a video tomorrow about the storm system that's kind of gonna be happening before the worst of the heat wave occurs. All right, thank you guys. And actually, I was about to end the video as you heard there, right? But I want to show you the drought monitor because I remembered that today was actually the update. And let's compare the past 2 weeks. So what they updated with this new version. This is the old one from last week. This is the new one. Notice where we have not improvements, right? Minnesota gets worse. South Dakota, Iowa, look at that. Severe drought right there. Actually, extreme drought in a few areas. It does get worse a bit across the Northwest. A few areas did get expanded, mainly the dark red. The Southwest mainly staying the same. Maybe a few areas across Nevada getting a bit better. Las Vegas still in that exceptional. Arizona, a few areas did get dropped down just to moderate, so that's good. New Mexico, some areas got worse again, so that's not good. Notice, yeah, it's still a pretty poor situation, and that's why this upcoming heat will just exaggerate that, especially across Dakotas, and probably form new droughts across Nebraska and Kansas, and make it worse across Minnesota and Iowa probably. Hopefully, with that rain, they do get, you know, it kind of wards off the worst of it, but that seems hard to do at this point. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.